Hi, so in this video we are going to be exploring the concept of 2D arrays. Okay, so we already talked about 1D array. Now we're going to talk about 2D array. So what is a 2D array? Okay, so a 2D array, okay, is basically data that is stored, okay, in a what we call a grid or a matrix, whichever way you like to call it. All right, so I'm going to draw a 2D array. So again, it looks like a grid. Okay, and in this 2D array we can say that the dimension is, so these are the rows, okay, and these are the columns. Okay, so I have 3 rows and 5 columns. Alright, so that is the first thing that we must understand. In a single dimensional array, okay, in a single dimensional array you have only one dimension. So if I have an array like this, then we say that we have an index, okay, that goes from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, now for a two-dimensional array the same concept applies, where I have index for the elements, but I have now two indexes to consider. One is the row index, the other is the column index. So for the row index, since I got 3 rows, 0, 1, 2, for column index is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so if let's say I call this data, okay, I call this array data. When I initialize it, okay, or when I declare it, I must put the correct size. In this case is 3 rows and 5 columns. Okay, so the first element here is the rows, okay, followed by the columns. Okay, so that is the basic idea of an array. Now when I want to access any element, either to update the data or retrieve the data, it is the same as a single dimensional array. So if it's a single dimensional array, for example this, we would put the array name. So let's say this array name is called num, then this would be num3. Alright, now if the same, going by the same concept, if I were to access, for example, this element, so for this element it is row 2 and column 3, so I would say that this particular element here is data row 2 and column 3. Okay, now let's see how to initialize the data. Okay, let's see how to initialize the data. Now let's put in some values so we understand what we are looking for. Alright, so the values I'm going to put in are simple. I'm just going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. Okay, so I want to initialize an array with all these values. Okay, so I need to first initialize the array, so I'm going to call it data. So 3 rows and 5 columns. Okay, so let me increase the size a bit. Okay, now how do I initialize these values? Now you just imagine that you need to put them row by row. Okay, so the first row, second row and third row, each of them in their own set of curly braces. Okay, so let's do that first. So the first row is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then the second row is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and the third row is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so the first thing is row by row. I look at it row by row based on the data that we want to put in. Okay, after that, for each set of curly braces, after that you put a comma. Alright, and then finally you put a big curly braces outside of it. Okay, so this is basically how you initialize this 2D array. Now to access 2D array, you need a nested for loop. Okay, so to have a nested for loop, you're going to have integer I, j. I mean, as I said, you can access any element directly by just providing the row and column information. Okay, but if I want to print out all the elements, all right, then I will want to have a nested for loop. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. So for I equals to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. Okay, so the outer for loop, okay, outer loop is for the rows. Okay, and then the inner for loop, j equals to 0, j less than 5, j plus plus. Okay, the inner loop is for all the columns. Okay, so I'm going to print out the value data I j, alright, followed by a comma. Alright, now what is going to happen here? Okay, so let's look at the first iteration of the loop. First iteration of the loop, I equals to 0, and I come in, j will go from 0 to 4. Alright, so what will happen? So the very first time, okay, I is 0, j is 0, the data that I access will be the first element, this one. So I'll print out 1. Okay, the next time the inner loop runs, j will become 1, so it will be 0, 1. 0, 1 is this element. So always remember, when I say 0, 1 means I'm referring to data 0, row 0, column 1. So that will be 2. And then the next iteration, 2, it will be 3. Okay, then j equals to 3, it will be 4, j equals to 4, it will be 5. Okay, so I'm accessing all the elements in the first row, okay, because I is 0, okay, and I'm going element by element across the row. That means I'm going column wise, okay, by incrementing j. Okay, now after I finish the entire row, I will become 1. Alright, so the next iteration, what happens? I is 1. So when I is 1, j starts again from 0. So 1, 0 means is referring to this element here, row 1, column 0. So it will be 6. J equals to 1 will be 7, and so on. Okay, j equals to 2 will be 8. Alright, so you can see how a nested for loop is actually helping us to access all the elements. Alright, and what I want to do is, after I finish each row, I want to print out, I'll go to a new line. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so you can see that the data that is printed out represents the idea of how we expect the 2D array to be structured. Okay, so 3 rows and 5 columns with all these initial values. Okay, so thank you for watching. Okay, and I'll see you in my next lesson. Bye.